HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
Today's program has been brought to you by Whole Foods Market, a dynamic leader in the quality food business, a mission-driven company that aims to set the standards of excellence for food retailers. For more information, visit WholeFoodsMarket.com. You're listening to HeritageRadioNetwork.org, a nonprofit member-supported radio station. We're millions strong, with folks tuning in from over 200 countries. We are education. We are entertainment. We are the future of food. May is our membership drive. Become a member and support us while receiving e-newsletters, advanced invites, special discounts, and a membership card. We need your support. Visit our website and click the donate button to become a member today. Thank you for believing in us, and enjoy the show.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Heritage Radio Network. You're listening to the Farm Report. I'm your host, Erin Fairbanks, and we are coming to you today, as always, from the back of Roberta's Pizza in beautiful Bushwick, Brooklyn. And we are on the line with Lorraine Lewandrowski. Lorraine, welcome to the program.
Oh, hi there. Yeah, I'm up in the Mohawk Valley in Herkimer, New York, calling in.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk a little bit about advocacy in the food world and take a look at some rural and urban connections or lack of connections. But before we jump in, let's give folks a little bit of a sense of your background. Lorraine, do you want to take us through a little bit of the work you do and give us a sense of the perspective you're coming to the conversation from?
Okay. Well, my family's been farming. We started out in Brooklyn, New York, 100 years ago. It came to Upstate New York, and we've been farming here for the past almost a century. I myself have been a farmer for 40 years. For the past 20 years, I have been an attorney as well as being a farmer. In my past work, I've worked on, advocated on different issues, and I've worked on solving New York State's solid waste problems. I've served on one of the governor's solid waste advisory boards, trying to figure out what to do with the state's garbage. I've represented endangered species. But the issues that have come to me most since probably about 2009 is advocating for farmers, commodity farmers, to food movement people in New York City. I've worked almost all of my life as an advocate for the average farmer, the average family farmer across the country. But it was really in 2009 that I started to try to talk with urban people about what is happening in rural New York and to try to make contact with food movement groups in the city. So I guess that brings me to your show today.
Yeah, no, so we connected a little bit, regarding kind of specifically dairy farmers. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, when you say kind of the average farmer, just so folks are really clear about kind of who you mean when you say that, can you give us a sense of what that looks like here in New York?
New York, we have about 5,400 dairy farms. The average herd size in New York is relatively small compared to the rest of the nation. We're at about 113 cows is the average size for a farm if you were to drive around rural New York. In comparison, the national average is 187 cows per farm. And of course that depends on the state you're in. For example, one of the fastest growing dairy states in the nation is New Mexico. The average herd size there is 2,300 cows.
Wow.
So you're looking at your typical, what people envision. I think of a farm here in rural New York. That's not to say we do have larger farms in the western part of the state. But the area that I'm in, the Mohawk Valley, is even smaller farms. They're very common to see herds of 30 cows, 60 cows, all grazing herds. So it really depends on the part of the state. And New York State is, I don't know if many people realize, but we upstate, when you get beyond the Hudson River Valley, there are 7 million acres of farmland. We have several different, I guess I would call it bioregions, and the people farm depending on the type of resources that they have.
So one of the things that I think is good to clarify for folks, in particular about the dairy industry, and I'm hoping maybe you can just kind of paint the picture for us in broad strokes, is, on a commodity dairy farm, you're essentially producing fluid milk and selling it usually into a co-op system, and I've heard dairy farmers refer to themselves as price takers, not price makers, which is to say...
Yeah, this is true. We don't have much control in setting the milk price. The prices are set by complicated dairy formulas through the federal milk marketing order. So we pretty much take what's given to us. And in New York, there is some issue. We are actually the lowest paid farmers in the entire Northeast and for the eastern half of the country. If you look at our pay price, there is a thing called the milk price map. Despite the tremendous demand for our milk, the way the federal rules work, we end up getting the lowest pay. So that's one thing I've been trying to point out to food movement people, but it's hard to explain these complicated formulas, and sometimes some of the things that some of the food movement people, or say like some of the celebrity authors, like what my complaint with Mark Bittman in his pieces about milk, is he doesn't understand what impacts his views would be on the average farmer. So that was what I tweeted about when I first made contact with you last month.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, Mark did just put out a book, Vegan After 6, and he has that I think, to my sense in our past conversations, was that kind of hit a chord with you, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about kind of why it
hit a particular note to New York's dairy farmers because in New York, about almost 40% of our milk goes to fluid milk markets. So that is a beverage. People drinking milk is a beverage. And by nature of the milk markets, our biggest customer is New York City. The way the federal milk marketing orders work, the pay price that we get is totally dependent on the amount of milk that goes into fluid milk. So last summer, Mr. Bittman started off on urging people not to drink milk, saying that it wasn't good. Now he's urging people to have no dairy consumption before dinner. Basically he could devastate and drive the farmers of rural New York into poverty. We're already losing farms as it is. It would be fine if our pay price was set in some other way, but the way the rules currently operate, and Senator Gillibrand has desperately been trying to change the way the rules work, but for now we're stuck with the rules, and we'll probably be stuck with the rules for another 5 years. Our pay price is dictated by the amount of milk that people actually drink. We have other markets that are coming on strong, but we are not paid as much for milk that goes into yogurt, and we're paid even less for milk that goes into cheese. So all of those prices are blended together, and under the current scheme, that's how our pay price is derived. So, we've had this situation in New York where, we see food movement people, in particular celebrity authors, telling the folks don't drink milk or dairy is no good for you, and is literally, could hammer us, the small farmers in rural New York. So it's very counterproductive, but we don't have any means of communicating with them. If we're just farmers out in rural New York. We're not on the scene in New York City to talk with groups. A group of us farmers did travel to Just Food on March 29th, and we put on a workshop and spoke with people. So that was a start, but it's just real. The avenues of communication that could be used are really not being used. So that's one of my major complaints, is that I would like to see the urban food movement really reach beyond the people who sell to them at farmers markets and CSAs that are in close proximity, and take a look at the 7 million acres of, there's a lot going on. One of my cartographer friends mapped it out for me that there's literally the area that the farmers have in rural New York is 37 times larger than New York City. There's a lot going on 7 million acres in upstate New York, and we'd like to see a better communications here. The means are available.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think definitely technological innovation has done nothing if not make it much easier to communicate. And obviously, food organizations, farm organizations that are based here in the city, and Mark Bittman are not, coming out kind of against farmers. I mean, and I don't think that's what you're saying. I mean, I think what you're saying is that the issues and the impacts of their statements are more kind of complex and could benefit from having a few more stakeholders kind of at the table to share, really
Precisely.
the gray area.
Yeah, I would say to have diversity in the food movement. It almost feels like we as commodity farmers have to fight our way into the food movement. When we try to talk, like I've tried to talk with some groups, and they go, well, livestock are bad for the environment. Okay, well, how do you know that? You've never been? Have you been on my farm where I have threatened species living, where we maintain several hundred acres of open habitat that, as every farm falls in our area, the lands are subdivided and split up? How is that great? So, there's a lot of like this black and white attitude going on, and, at least some of my Twitter friends are telling me they want to see more detailed conversation and more nuance to all of these discussions. There is no black or white answer, and it really varies by the resources of the region. New York right now, we have 3 million acres of abandoned grassland sitting there. Literally, there's a report by Cornell called Green Grass, Green Jobs. 3 million acres of land sitting that could be utilized for grazing, for meat production, for dairy. But we don't see any push from food movements to talk about that. Perhaps closer to New York City, but it's just not reaching the people up here in my area, and I think that's a shame.
Well, one of the things I know for me that was so interesting when I was getting to spend a little time in upstate New York looking at, I lived just on the road from a commodity dairy farm. They milked about 300 head. And one of the things that we talked a lot about, the farm I was working at and other farmers that I spoke with in the area, was the importance of the dairy industry in maintaining kind of the farming infrastructure, the veterinary services, the tractor supply stores, the seed stores. And I think that it's kind of one of those gray areas that was a belated glimpse of the obvious to me, is like that just like anything in life, there's a real benefit to a diversity of producers. And I wonder if you can maybe expand on that a little bit.
Well, and again, it depends on the region. Like, say, you go up to northern New York, the North Country, up to the Canadian border. You're talking 4,300 farms, 1 million acres. They are highly dependent on dairy. There are some new producers coming on trying to do vegetables and things like that, but it's a long, long haul to New York City. And up and down the Mohawk Valley, we see many little rural towns that are empty. Their main streets are shut down. What was formerly a feed mill is closed. The little machinery dealerships are gone. I can't even tell you how many little towns I could drive through here in central New York. And as you lose the farmers, and maybe you just have a few more larger farms, you lose a lot of this infrastructure and people lose jobs. But that's why the yogurt sector has been so helpful. Chobani has generated 1,200 jobs in less than 5 years. Fayette yogurt plant, located, that's where the milk from my farm goes, is 20 miles away. I know they've generated several hundred jobs. So, in rural New York, if you look at the statistics, we've actually been, our unemployment rates have been going up. We have increasing rural poverty in some of the counties. And with rural poverty and emptiness, people seek a way to make some money. We have fracking companies dangling big money in front of some farmers who can't even afford health insurance anymore. So there are many financial dynamics at work upstate as well. So I guess I just totally opposed to this black or white view that one thing is good and the other thing is bad without knowing the factors that we're talking about today, Erin.
Sure. And I guess I'm curious how you would respond. I mean, if someone were to say essentially like the dairy system in New York is not working, it's it's time to innovate. It's time to be looking towards something new. I mean, I know farmers, in my experience, are not particularly fond of being on the receiving end of a charitable thrust. I mean, what do you think with regards to kind of,
Well, Senator Gillibrand has been trying to change the milk pricing system, and we've been very, very fortunate. Senator Gillibrand's like the first senator who's ever actually come to rural New York and met with farmers and sat down for hours on end. She was here in Herkimer a year ago to let every farmer speak. There was no controlled speaking system and trying to get the views. And one of the things she's been trying to change is what they call the end-use pricing system, so that if fluid milk consumption declines and yogurt increases, that farmers could be paid more, not less, for the milk. So that's one thing. We have the federal farm bill is under discussion at this point. We're not sure exactly what will happen, but we have regions competing in terms of the farm bill. And this is where I felt kind of badly about the New York City food movement. We just didn't see that much support from the New York City food groups saying to the Senate, the Senates or Congress that they really want to see our dairy farmers succeed. It's been almost like total silence from the food groups in the city about the commodity farmers. I've spoken with some of them. They said, "Oh, we're more interested in local food." Okay, well, there's a great local. There's a wide open, these millions of acres north of you. What's your interest in them? And they go, "Well, we don't buy commodities. We only, we like to get from creameries that are organic or near us or whatever." It's kind of narrow vision. I think New York City people should be aware of something very important to me, and that's food security for the future. I attended Governor Cuomo's yogurt summit last year. This was a whole summit put on by the governor just to talk about the yogurt industry and its economic benefits. And while I was there, I spoke with a fellow who, within 24 hours after 9/11 hit, a task force was assembled to look at New York City's food security. With such a major emergency going on, the state officials suddenly found that, what if there were more incidents? How long could New York City last without food? They found they only have like a 3-day supply of food in the city, and the food supply chains are getting longer and longer, bringing in food from further, controlled by fewer companies. So I think that part of the food movement thrust should be to take a look at the food that you have here in your state, take a look at the farms, look at the 7 million acres, see what they can do, and support those people.
That's great. I want to take just a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk into a little bit more on this pricing structure, because it's still a little unclear to me, and I think I want to just touch back on that. But hang tight. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
You're listening to Snickers by Obesity on the heritageradionetwork.org. Keep it locked for more Farm Report.
Today's program has been brought to you by Whole Foods Market. Washed rind cheeses are a fairly recent addition to the repertoires of artisanal cheesemakers in the United States. These cheeses tend to be stinkier than other types and are often high on the list of connoisseurs. Now, Whole Foods Market has come up with one of their own. The raw cow's milk cheese made by Sprout Creek Farm in Poughkeepsie, New York, is washed with 6 Point Ale from Red Hook, Brooklyn. The beige, sticky rind deepens in color as it ages. The satiny ivory cheese within is mellow, with a sweetly tangy bite and a grassy aroma. The current version features 6 Point Diesel, which is in limited supply, so stop by and pick up some before it's gone. And Point of Origin cheese is sold exclusively at Whole Foods Market in New York, Northern New Jersey, and Connecticut. For more information, visit WholeFoodsMarket.com.
All right, we are back. You're tuned into the Farm Report. I'm your host, Erin Fairbanks, and we're on the line with Lorraine Lewandrowski, and we're talking about farming in New York State. Now, Lorraine, one of the things that I think is still kind of a little confusing to me is this the milk pricing structure for different products. So,
and that's confusing to everybody.
Okay.
It's confusing to farmers too. I would say most farmers and 99% of the farmers don't understand totally how milk prices are set. It derives from a formula, and the federal milk pricing structure goes back to the Depression era, and in New York State in particular, probably New York City's first food advocate was Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. He intervened during the great milk strikes of the Depression years to try to set up formulas that would or structures that would ensure that the farmers could survive and ensure that New York City would have generous, wholesome milk supply coming from rural New York. And the way the price system evolved through the years is that there are different classes of milk. So milk that is sold into a fluid market generates the highest price. They were trying to reward the farmers who are processing, sending milk in for fluid. And then the second category is called the yogurt. And then the third category is cheese. And then we have milk powder, where they would make milk into powder and then do something with it, kind of as a way of getting rid of milk, like in the peak season. Like right now, when the cows hit the grass, sometimes there's too much milk for the market, so they might make it into powder. So all of those prices are blended together, and then the farmer gets like the blend price in his or her milk check that comes twice a month. And we're paid 60 days after the milk has left the farm. That's another reason why it's very difficult to negotiate. Your milk is already long gone down the road. So as the percentages of milk change, as it's being used in these different categories, fluid milk consumption has seen a substantial decline. People don't drink as much milk as they did. Some speculate that it's because there are so many alternatives. People are getting older; they may not drink as much. But for whatever reason, fluid milk consumption has declined, and the share that goes into yogurt, which is a lower price category, has increased. In New York, in particular, it's been a huge increase. And then, and the share that's in cheese is fairly stable. So the way the market works, the structure works, is that the less milk that's sold into fluid, the less the blended price will be, just by averaging all of those figures. So there's a market administrator who oversees all of this and calculates the figures. They're based in Manhattan. So Senator Gillibrand had been trying to change the structure. It's possible there may be hearings coming on down the road, and that's something that we could really use some help with. Another complaint of farmers is that the market is highly concentrated, that a few companies control a huge percentage of the milk market. Say Kraft, Dean Foods controls. You can see many labels are all bottled under Dean Foods. Have an inordinate, perhaps bargaining power, when it comes to buying milk from the farmers. So that's another area that farmers have complained about. That it's some say it's impossible to get anywhere. We're just a bunch of small farmers trying to deal with a global corporation like Kraft. So those are two areas that even if food movement people didn't necessarily understand all the way that the market works, it would even be so helpful if they called like Senator Gillibrand's office and said, well, maybe we don't understand the federal rules, but one thing we do understand is that we would like to have farms here in New York. So I don't know if I've explained, the formula. It's kind of tough, but that's the way it's working out in New York, and it's been unfortunate that the price we've received here in New York for several years now has been lower. You could cross over into Pennsylvania, and the farmers are paid more. You go into New England, they're paid far more than we are. And we in New York are in a high-cost state. We have high land taxes. The cost of our workers' compensation is quite high. Our insurances, electricity. We've got a lot of high cost going on. So that's why we've been seeing losses of farmers in rural New York, particularly the smaller and mid-sized farms. We're seeing dairy production being concentrated into fewer areas. There was a nice article in one of the farm magazines the other day calling it Cow Islands, where we're seeing more and more farms, dairy farms, and larger farms in western New York, where in the Finger Lakes area, where they have huge, wide open flatlands, and we're seeing an abandonment of some of the smaller, like the grazing farms. So the food movement is sat pretty much in silence while this is going on. I guess that's one reason I wanted to be on the radio, was to say that, the farmers and the food movement people have a lot in common. They're both seeking a good food system, and they should be talking to each other.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wonder if we can talk a little bit. So, it seems like we have this idea that there's kind of the two options out there. On one hand, there's the, small scale, organic, farmer who milks and bottles, has a creamery on their property, and there's really just a handful of those. Yeah,
it's so expensive. The equipment is preposterously expensive. Even having your own artisan cheese plant, it's no cheap proposition. It requires maybe $100,000 plus in the equipment. Not to mention super education. You really need to know what you're doing these days. It's foolhardy to try to do this unless you've gotten a good education of some sort.
Right. So that requires, you have that on one side, which requires a huge investment of capital and technical expertise. It's not a place anyone's really going to start. And then on the opposite end, you have the commodity system, where essentially, am I understanding you correctly, that if you're producing milk in New York State and you decide, let's say you're selling into one co-op, I mean, what are your options as a farmer if you want to stop and sell into somewhere else, or you want to transition to some alternative source to put your milk to sell your milk? I mean, are there what does that landscape look like?
It depends on the area. Like say in my area, we have a choice of several co-ops we can belong to. I personally choose to belong to a small co-op where we have some degree of input. I think there are some very large co-ops. If we were to try to bottle our own milk, that would require a lot of money. I've been helping out at Three Village Cheeses, an artisan cheese plant in my town. I've been helping, and I've got my cheese making certificate, things like that. But it's just even that process itself is so expensive. I see farmers giving up their health insurance. As an attorney, I deal every day with farmers who have medical judgments against them because they had no health insurance and they had a heart attack or their appendix removed. I see farmers selling pieces of land. All around me, I see there are beautiful little cow pastures for sale. The farmers are trying to raise money because the school tax bills will be out in September. So I'm seeing reality out here. And I guess I'll say it, I just see some of the urban food movement spending too much time venerating celebrity chefs when they should be talking to the average person.
So on that note, we're just about out of time, but let's talk about some kind of potential strategies moving forward. I mean, if you had a magic wand, what would kind of that communication chain look like? What would the organizations involved be? Who would the players be? What would some of the kind of next steps towards building that network?
Well, we had a group of us ordinary farmers spoke at Just Food. This was the first time. We traveled to the city. We tried to talk with some other food groups. And I'm going to try to email them again, and see if they would try to talk with some of us farmers. I know the farm organizations, some of them do speak with some of the food groups on occasion, but I would like some of the food groups, like, say, Slow Food or Brooklyn Food Coalition, to, maybe tweet with us. I mean, that's a very easy way to communicate. Talk with some of the mainstream farm groups. In the Northeast, we have Farm Bureau, we have New England Farmers Union. New England Farmers Union just opened their doors to urban farmers. They're trying to, increase the dialogue through that route because, the urban farmers are the first farmers to know what it's like to be a farmer. We have Facebook. We have, we had groups invite us to come back to the city. NYU Food Day invited a farmer to speak at in November 2012. So we're seeing the doors open. And Heritage Radio has been really pivotal. I think after I was on Ann Saxelby's show during the Occupy movement, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And I think the farmers need to see that people want to talk with them. When we came back from New York City and we said that we had been in the city, we were at a dairy banquet. We got a standing ovation. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Good. Well, and I think, part of opening that dialogue is having more conversations like this and bringing more people to the table to start exploring some of these really important and, quite frankly, really pressing issues. So I really want to thank you for your time and your expertise. I think you did an amazing job really kind of laying out some of the really challenging aspects of shaping the food system for the next generation.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. And I appreciate you tweeting to me, because sometimes I tweet to food movement people and they just ignore me. But I'm on Twitter, NY Farmer. If anybody would like to tweet, it's so easy. So I really appreciate it.
Great. Well, we hope to have you back soon, and we'll definitely be following this conversation on the network for the weeks and months and, years to come. Thank you so much.
Oh, Erin, thank you.
So this, like all 30 of our live weekly shows, are available for free as a download. You can visit our website, www.heritageradionetwork.org. We are wrapping up our membership month, so please click that donate tab, become a member today. We're so close to this month's goal. It'd be great to have your support right now. It is critical to keeping on the station going and bringing you the great programs week after week. You can also find us on iTunes. Check us out on Stitcher Smart Radio. Of course, follow us on your favorite social media platform. You can see us at Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are. We want to be there too. So tune in and keep on listening. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening. What's hot at the green market? You're about to find out now. It's the Grow NYC Market Update.
All right. Thanks for tuning into the Grow NYC Market Update. This week we're taking a trip out to Queens.
Great. Hey, Erin. Yeah, we're going to go out to our Forest Hills location, located right on Queens Boulevard at 70th Street. The market just reopened for its second season, but when it began last July, it was like no market opening I had ever seen. It was absolute gangbusters. This area of Queens is particularly beautiful. The community is very tight-knit. For about 3 years before we arrived, we received petitions and requests for opening a green market, but in that time we had yet to find the right spot. So finally we found a great location last year right in front of the Forest Hills Post Office, and opening day brought tons of customers who remained so loyal to the market that we opened early in April. I mean, we tend to open markets and give it a few weeks and get customer support, but this one was like opening day, the customers were there and ready.
That's awesome. So as it's a new market, I mean, what can we expect as far as products and farmers?
Yeah, the market's jam-packed with incredible producers. We have some specialty ethnic produce like callaloo and papiche from Amante Farm. Bread Alone and Las Delicias bring baked goods and pastries made with local-grown flour and produce. Red Jacket Orchards, of course, with their juices and orchard fruit, because cherries are really not far away now. Long Island Seafood and animal welfare-approved pork, lamb, poultry, and eggs from B&Y Farm. Andrew's Local Honey, Long Island Produce, and what you don't typically find at most markets, 2 dairies. So we have Ronnie Brook, who everybody knows, and Good Ale. So Good Ale Farms is a dairy from the east end of Long Island. And when I visited the market last weekend, their stand was packed with customers picking up a wide variety of Chev. I got plain because I'm a purist, but the other flavors look delicious. They also sell prepared horseradish by the clamshell, so it's a lot. And I've never seen that on I've seen it raw on farmers' stands before, but never prepared. So I thought that was an awesome product to see, and the flavor was so much better than prepared horseradish from this store. So also, I don't want to forget to mention that much to the immense happiness of Forest Hills customers, Build It Green Compost will be starting food scrap collections this Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon, so customers can drop off their kitchen scraps every week after that.
Nice. Well, I know Forest Hills, there's a lot going on out of that neighborhood. What do you guys recommend in particular folks check out if they're making the trek out to visit the market?
Yeah, the neighborhood's well known for its beautiful architecture, Tudor-style homes, and flourishing gardens, so just cruising around is really nice and makes you feel like you're traveling through old Europe. Food-wise, this neighborhood covers the map in true Queen style. French bakeries, Cuban sandwiches, Lebanese, wafas for shish tawuk and lamb shawarma, Middle Eastern and Japanese grocery stores. I could go on all day. Basically, if you want to adventure into the outer boroughs for some incredible food, head directly to Forest Hills.
That is awesome. You're making me hungry. Well, Liz, I know that there's a lot going on. It's a busy time at market. You've got some new shops opening, some events. What should we be looking for in the next week?
Well, I want to give a shout-out to strawberries. They're in abundance right now, and sweet peas showed up this week also. Peonies, they're my favorite flower, so I want to mention them. They're here for such a short period of time. Be sure to pick some up. Market openings this Saturday. We have Sunnyside and Socrates opening in Queens, Bay Ridge opening in Brooklyn. Next Tuesday, Fort Washington, Bronxboro Hall, and Elmhurst all open. And we're starting compost collection at Fort Washington and Bronxboro Hall for the first time this year. So that'll all be happening next Tuesday. Union Square, this weekend we have Louisa Shafia there. A lot of people know Louisa. She runs a nice catering company, and her book is New Parisian Cooking, so she'll be out at Union Square. And then next weekend on the 8th, we're going to have Batali brothers and dad. So the Mario Batali's sons are young, like 14 and 16, and for their dad's 50th birthday, they put out a cookbook for him. So they're going to be at market selling their cookbook, and Mario will be there selling some of his books also. Also this Saturday, we have 82nd Street Green Market. Chef A.J. Black from El Tesoro will be making fresh pasta and a seasonal sauce. Next Saturday at Grand Army Plaza, we have our strawberry shortcake eating contest, so we're trying to get all the dads out to ramp up for Father's Day and get everybody excited. The categories for winning are fastest, messiest, and cleanest, so even if you're not participating, it's really fun to watch. Also, starting at Film Forum on June 12th is a documentary about bees and colony collapse disorder, and the next day, June 13th, Hunter College for their food policy for breakfast series, which I love. I've been to a couple already, and they're great. They're going to do their, that morning will be about bees, and the director and writer for the film will be there. So you can, June 12th and 13th, learn as much as you possibly could ever know about bees at both of those events.
Oh, man. Pasta, honey, shortcake, Mario Batali. I mean, those kids are making me feel bad about what I gave my dad for his 50th.
I know, right? Well, it's summer, so the list is going to keep going.
That's awesome. Well, Liz, thanks for taking some time out to give us the update. Really appreciate you checking in.
Great. Thanks, Erin.
To find out more about what's happening at the Grow NYC markets, definitely visit them, www.grownyc.org. There you can find information on more cooking demos, book signings, giveaways, and everything that's happening at your weekly neighborhood green market. You can also stay up to date in the moment by following them on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your pleasure is. Check them out, and definitely stay tuned in next week for another Grow NYC market update.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.